Okay, so as a bonus, I did say I will also teach you how to connect your Putty from Windows over to your Linux server. So first you have to do is make sure you download Putty. So open a web browser here. As you can see, it's still a part of our secure Linux server. And pretty much just go ahead and look for Putty download. Download Putty. Click here. And then you're going to want to either pick your 32-bit or your 64-bit installer. This will give you everything you need with all the utilities. So as you can see down here, we'll get our Putty, our FTP Putty, PuttyGen, and everything. So you'll and your pageant. But instead of downloading everything, one at a time, it's just better just to download the installer so you can get them all. All right. So first things first is I want to open up PuttyGen. Okay, and what PuttyGen is just a key generator for it. So what we're going to do here is we're simply going to hit generate. And now when it says generate here, it says please generate some randomness by moving the mouse over the blank area. And the blank area is here. So just pretty much just go ballistic. Okay. So as you can see here, we went ahead and created a public key. As you can see, it's right here. I would not recommend showing this to anybody, but for this video, I can because once this video is over with, this key gets destroyed. So there's a few things you may want to do. First off, the key comment. I always like to name what the key is. So for instance, Debian SVR for Debian server. So I know that this key is meant for my Debian server that I'm working on. If you have a actual like domain or something like that, you can call it DC01, Debian. So you know it's the domain controller for your Debian servers. But for this video, we're just going to keep it simple. I'm going to call it my Debian server because that's what I'm actually uploading the key to. Now, passphrase is a choice. I like to put it on there for the extra security features. What it does is that when you go to try to use the key and it tries to authenticate with the server, it's going to ask you for a password to unlock the private key. If you don't actually have that, it won't let you log into the server. If you lose that password, you have to go ahead and redo all this all over again. So I don't recommend losing it. This is optional, but I always like to add extra security if possible. So the next thing we're going to do in this is we're going to save both the public key and the private key. Now, I like to save them in a folder called My Documents under Putty because at least I know where the keys are. So we're going to go ahead and hit Save Public Key. And as you can see here, I already had keys made earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and overwrite them. So I'm going to call mine the Putty Public because that's what it is. Hit Save. I'm going to overwrite mine. And we do the same thing for the private key. Now you can see it's under this PC, Documents, and Putty. Now if you want, you can create a folder for each key if you want, but that's up to you. So if you have like multiple servers you're doing this for, if you want to name each server, you can. Me personally, I pretty much use the same private key and just generate multiple publics in that case. But that's not really for this video. So we're going to go ahead and hit Putty Private, hit Save. I'm going to overwrite it. So for the most part, we're pretty much done, but what we're going to do here is we want to copy all this. Now, the reason why we saved the public keys, because if I want to actually, see, I can load private keys, I can save them and everything else. If I'm having something like that, I want to, add it to it later, I can, so I always have the key. But for this video, we're going to copy this actually to the server right now. So I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to open up a SSH into my Linux server that I have. And on the server I'm using, obviously, is Debian. All right, I'm going to hit open. I'm going to log directly into it right now, so we're all good. Now, you can go ahead and win SCP into it as well and do some copy and pasting and just copy the file back over. But I feel that this works just as good. So first things first, we have to go into our SSH folder. So cd.ssh. Then we're going to press L and S to see that we have a file in there called authorized keys. And that's where all your keys get stored for any client you connect to. So what I'm going to do here is sudo nano to edit the file and type in authorized underscore keys. Press enter, type in my admin password, and there you go. So now I have one key already in here for a Linux, for my Linux client that I created, but now I'm going to copy over my Windows one here. So what I'm going to do here very simply is hit select all, hit copy, and then here, just go ahead and paste. Now it may paste the way mine looks like this, but if you hit your home button, it brings you all the way back to the beginning, which is what we want. So as you can see here, we have both of them in there, nothing got overwritten, and we're good. So now I'm going to hit Control X, and then press Y to save it, and then hit enter again to save the file. Now I want to go ahead and restart SSH, so I'm going to do sudo system control restart SSH. So now I've applied the keys and make sure the keys are good. So exit out of this, and then we're going to go ahead and exit out of PuttyGen. Okay, so to apply the actual key and everything to Putty is very simple. We're going to go down and actually open up Putty. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to first off type in my host name or IP and then configure the port. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is go down to where it says connection. And then in here you're going to see a bunch of different things. So we're going to go down to SSH, hit the plus C, the plus sign, sorry. And then we're going to go down to auth. Now in here, we're going to go ahead and look for the private key file authentication. So I'm going to hit browse. And I'm going to open up the private key that we saved earlier. Hit open. And now once all that's ready to go, if you want, you can go into something, under data. And if you want, you can type in admin if that's the normal auto login name. But I usually don't bother with that. Because sometimes I use obviously different usernames to log in every time. But this is pretty much just for this server as we're doing it. So once we go back, we verify that the private key is good. We're going to hit open. It's going to ask you for which name you want to log in as. So I'm going to hit admin. Now see, I have the passphrase for the private key. And that's what it's asking for here. Not the password for your admin, your admin password on the server, but asking you for the passphrase to, activate the private key. And there we go. So once I type it in, I am ready to go. Now, I'll go ahead and exit. And let me do that one more time. And it should give me an error if I don't type in the password. So I'll go back down, go to auth, open up the private key, hit open, type in admin. Now, if I type in the wrong password, see, eventually, it just will not let me in. So I keep hitting enter, I can't do it. So until I actually type in the correct password, it won't let me into the system at all. It doesn't error me out. You can go in the settings and actually change it to, like, say if you do it 3 times or 4 times, it will just say no good. But for this video, I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible for you. But that is exactly how you can go ahead and apply a encryption key from your Windows computer to your Debian computer. Now I'll go ahead and open up my actual Debian server here. And then just to prove that we do have our 2 keys in here, sudo nano.ssh authorized keys, and I spelled it wrong, which is okay. And there you go. So we have our 2 keys from earlier. If I look all the way at the end, as you can see, this is Debian server, which matches what we had originally. So at least I know we're all good to go. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple process. to be able to actually link them together. You can do multiple keys. You can do a lot of different things as well, adding it to it. As well as inside Putty too, they actually have another feature in here where if you go down to auth and you see where it says attempt authentication through pagan, you can turn it on and off. Now what pagan actually is I'll go ahead and open up my Putty folder. So inside Putty, if you actually run the private key, see, load into pagan, type in the password to unlock the key. If you look down here in my icons, I actually now have the key loaded. So if I want, I can keep adding more and more private keys to this. And what it'll do is it'll actually run a list through all these actual keys to see which one will work on the server. So if you have, like, say 5 or 6 servers, multiple privates, multiple public keys, having it inside the PuttyGen key list will actually be very helpful in the end, so you don't actually confuse which keys are what. It'll automatically just say, okay, which key is this? It's a Debian server. It'll run it against this key as well. And that's pretty much it on how to set up your Putty with Linux servers.